Hello out there, all you wonderful people. This is Andre the Game, my dear guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And this one isn't really about video games. It's more about Marvel's New Warriors 2020. um, I've had this discussion with Jay on the game, I'm about to say the Game Cafe, on the Winging It podcast. Wow, like Game Cafe is not what he does anymore. But I've done that on the Wing. Like we had this discussion on the Winging It podcast, and I talked about ways that these characters could actually be fixed that would be interesting to people. That I think would be acceptable and would make the characters worthwhile. So I'm kind of going to retread that here because that was just only a small portion of that whole discussion. And I still find it interesting to talk about it, like, because what Marvel did with it was horrible. Horrible. And now they're trying to put variant covers on the comics that don't actually show off these characters so that people might actually buy it. Marvel, I hate to break it to you, but you led with the wrong foot forward, and that was a horrible impression you guys gave. But here's what I do. Now, I'm not going to fully dissect every character, but I'm going to talk about things that I think would actually fit these characters much better than how Marvel presented them. I'm not worried about changing the way the characters look, even though some of the designs could use some help. But I'm more focused on just some key aspects of the characters that would make them better. Now, I'm going to start off with Trailblazer, who's undoubtedly the lead character that they're trying to push. I don't think she should be the leader of the group. I really don't think she should be the leader of the group, but that's what they're pushing for. So, that's on Marvel. What I would do with her, because she has this magic backpack, quote unquote, I would make that backpack operate a lot like the Omnitrix of Ben 10 when he was younger. Like in the early days of Ben 10, like when the series originally started before the reboot. That's how it would make the backpack operate. Where she would get items that she needs in the moment to help her solve her problem. Because the long and short of it is, she's still a regular human. She still has human weaknesses. But what could be done with her is that she could, and this would play into how smart and how much ingenuity she has. This would play on her intelligence and her capability to adapt to things on the fly. So that would honestly be great for this type of character. But like they keep talking about wanting diversity and strong characters, but it's like they don't know how to create them. like I took this concept and immediately thought, ooh, that could operate like the Omnitrix. That'd be cool. She's still human. She's still vulnerable in many different ways, but at the same time, that makes her nearly the most overpowered character in the group, if used properly. But she could, be in the moment that they're trapped in a building and it's going to blow up on them, and she pulls something out of her backpack that can stop the bomb from going off. Something like that. Anything like that. Stuff that would work. Or just in general, she gets things that she needs for the situation. Like maybe she thinks she needs one thing, but the backpack will give her something completely different. It'll give her something completely different, and she has to wrap her head around what the backpack is trying to get her to do. Like it's teaching her how to use it. Which would eventually lead to her, along the way, developing and becoming in sync with what tools the backpack gives her. Because she's learning how to use it, it's showing her how to properly use it as a tool. And now, like along the way, she eventually comes up to the point where I can think of what I need, and the backpack will give it to her, and she can think of enhancements for the item before it even gives it to her, and she can improve upon what it does. That's the type of thing that they could have done with this character, and that would have made her a heck of a lot more interesting than the way they're trying to present her. Like the origin of how she got the backpack doesn't really matter much to me. That doesn't really matter much to me because, I mean, it's a backpack. She could have picked it up at a flea market for all I care. It's just that it gave her special abilities that she wouldn't otherwise have. And she could still be this philanthropic character that she wants to help so many other people and wants to do good things and do good by other people. That doesn't have to change. That could still remain the same. I wouldn't make her the leader of the group. I mean, I wouldn't make her the de facto leader of the group. I'd make her like the second up. Mostly because she's the one without the powers at all. But I'd also make her be like, of a high, like maybe not extremely more intelligent than everybody else, but I would make her more the planner type character, where she can think her way through things. And again, having the backpack show her how to adapt, how to use it, would show her adaptability. Show that she can come up with things like this, and sometimes she can improve how the backpack would have given her something. That would be how you build her up. She starts out, she doesn't know how to use it. She gets random items that she doesn't know how to use them right off, and then she has to tinker around with them and figure them out. And then she gets to the point where it's like, oh, this is the situation. I've encountered a situation like this before. I know what I need to make, and I know how to make it better than it was the last time. That's the type of thing that they could have done with her. Now, moving on to screen time. I have no idea who came up with the idea of experimental internet gas. It's like, was this a digital fart? Like, seriously, who came up with this concept and thought that that was the best idea they could come up with? His grandfather's experimental internet gas. His magical electric fart. Like, seriously, why? Why would you think to do this? Why would you even think that this was a good idea? It's not. Now, you want to know something that's funny? We have these things called VR headsets that people plug into and they play different games and things, and they log into so many different services with them. Why couldn't the teenage boy here have, been trying to play an online game, and maybe he was working on something at the same time and he stopped to go into a search engine, and we just have let's say his grandfather is a scientist and he's working on something in the lab and it causes an electrical power outage, a short of some sort, that somehow shocks him while he's connected to the network with his VR headset on. That would explain his powers completely. And it's far more logical than him breathing in an electronic fart. I just can't get over that. It's literally an electronic fart. It's like the equivalent of your PC fan stopping for a moment and then it blows out gas out the back of it. It's just, I can't deal with that one. Or if we were to go with the gas theory, why couldn't the gas have been laced with nanites or nano machines that his grandfather was working on? But maybe not that it was something that he let out on purpose. It just so happened that they got loose during an experiment. Either way, a failed experiment caused this. Not necessarily a failed experiment. An experiment gone awry caused this. Or we could combine the two ideas where it is a gas, but he was logged into a game with his VR headset on, and he was playing on it, and he stopped to go search up something for the game. That's how he ended up with the ability to utilize his mind as a complete search engine and be completely tapped into the internet at any point in time. I mean, it still leaves him human, just like with Trailblazer, but at the same time, he's a good information source. So he can come up with things that are helpful to the group at any known time, or help them figure out what a particular chemical is or the properties of something as things go on. And he can do that instantly. I get the premise of what his power is supposed to do. I just think the way that they came up with how he gets his power is horrible. It's just, Like, who would have thought? Who thought that this wasn't going to be a meme or a joke at some point? You had experimental internet gas. Couldn't have been a gas that was full of nanites, and the process was to use them to like possibly terraform a planet to make it viable for people to live on, and he was just trying to use them in small case situations on like dirt and clay and stuff to see how well they would work at terraforming. And the experiment happened. Some of the gas got out. It got to his grandson who was playing games, and it adapted to the technology that his grandson was using. I, I I don't know why that was impossible to think of. That's actually a pretty decent explanation. The next one, I'm going to go to the next one, and that's going to be negative. Now, B negative is literally a Morpheus clone. He literally is a Morpheus clone who got his powers from Morpheus because of a blood transfusion. I get that they're trying to make him the goth loner type character who has the negative personality traits. It's part of his name, and it's also a pun on the fact that he's a vampiric character. I like the pun being on that he's a vampiric character, but I don't think it should be It should be in his personality traits. He doesn't have to be an edgy character. He could have the look and design of an edgy character, but he could actually be, again, this is the character I would make the leader of the group and make him the positive reinforcement for everybody else, the guy that kind of pushes them to do better with themselves or to believe in themselves, not to be the, oh, life sucks, everything's a pain. That's not the type of character I would make him be. Like mostly because I would say he was that type of person before the transfusion from Morpheus that saved his life. Whereas after he survived and he got to see that maybe he's not physically the person that he was before, but he got to see he got a new lease on life. He got to see things from a different perspective, and that makes him more hopeful, more energetic, more willing to help other people, more willing to be the support system for other people, more willing to be the stand-up person for everybody to look to. And that could be his role in the group. It's a simple thing. It's just a switch of the personality could make this character way, way better than what they're trying to do with him. We've got enough characters that are intentionally edgy. Like, why not take the character that looks the role and do the opposite with him? Like, that breaks more conventions than we're going to make him be negative because his name is B negative. I don't know. Maybe it's just my thought process on trying to, actually make good characters and not make agenda qualified characters. Which leads me down to Snowflake and Safe Space. I'll deal with Safe Space first. I get that they're non-binary, but I'm going based on what they look like. So, even if they're non-binary, they still have the physical appearances of a male and a female. That's how people are going to identify them when they see them. You're not going to tell some little kid when they pick up the comic book to say they or them. The boy is going to say he or she, as well as the little girl is going to say he or she. They're going to look at them in that way. And that's how you have to simplify it. I understand, that can be offensive to some people, but you have to understand how most people's minds work. Yeah, you would have to explain it, but kids are not likely to pick up on or understand that fully at all. It's just not in their wheelhouse to deal with. They have other things on their minds. So they're more likely going to ignore what you say and go with how the characters look. Okay? Just to have that explanation out there so people don't think I'm just trying to be insensitive, which I'm not. It's just how things operate. Okay? Now, Safe Space. I do not know how they screwed this one up so badly. It's horrible. It's so horrible that they screwed this one up so badly. His power set is that he can make force fields, but he can only make the force fields if he's protecting someone else. Doesn't that make him vulnerable if he's not protecting another person? He can't protect himself. That makes him extremely vulnerable. And that is stupid, because now you have to forcibly write in situations where he has to protect someone in order to use his powers. See, the better way to go about this would have been to give him the force fields and he can activate them at any moment. Maybe his power is enhanced when he's protecting someone, like because he has more willpower to protect someone else. That I could understand. I could get that. But he should still be able to access his powers if he needs them. It just doesn't make any sense to force him to be left in a situation where he can't protect himself. And then, save space. Give his force fields the ability to allow teleportation. Like, he has to activate the force field and encompass whatever he wants to teleport with it, but he can teleport things to different locations with his force field. How is that not easy to understand? It's literally a pun on his name. Safe, force field, space, teleportation. I mean, I don't get why that code was so difficult to crack. Again, this is just me trying to think of things that would make the characters better. And his twin sister, Snowflake, I would make her a lot like Pyro, where Pyro can manipulate fire, but he can't create fire. That's why he has to wear the little the gauntlets that he wears with the torches on them, because he can't create fire himself, but he can manipulate it to any size that he wants it to be. I would make her power very similar to that she can't create water and ice, but if she's near a body of water, she can manipulate it to do different things. Not just necessarily just as ice. But she can, take the water, make a tidal wave out of a small amount of water, or turn it into a big ice wall of some kind, which would be cool. It allows her a lot of adaptability with her power. It allows her to do a lot of different things. So let's say she has a bottle of water in her pocket. She could turn that bottle of water into a massive tsunami if she needed to. That would make it would make her extremely powerful. 2, it would give her a weakness. Something that would be exploitable, but at the same time, she wouldn't be one to be messed with. And I would make sure that her and Safe Space both have hand-to-hand combat training of some sort. Maybe not in the early runnings of the comics, because they're still young. They're still learning how to really use their powers. But as time goes on, have them train with somebody who's a martial artist. Like, try to bring in somebody like the Iron Fist, maybe Taskmaster, to help train them to be able to... I mean, for the whole team in general. But say that these two, as time went on, they focused more on it because they needed something as a backup in case they couldn't use their powers. And with that, I would make it so that Snowflake's favorite way to use her power is to make ice shuriken that are snowflake shaped. Hence her name. Make it her preference as her form of attack when she's doing things. But give her the other abilities to be able to protect herself or other people if need be. And make her extremely powerful in situations where they could really use someone like her. And I would make it so that when she does use her power, in that way, take a bottle of water and turn it into a tsunami or a tidal wave of some sort, that it does actually wear her down. It drains her of her energy. So it would tire her out if she uses her power in an extreme measure like that. But at the same time, it gives her, again, it just gives her more adaptability. Because the way they got her power currently is that she can just make snowflake shurikens and throw them. Like ice shurikens that are in the shapes of different snowflakes and throw them. That's dumb. Like, that's really dumb. Like, and I would give her and Safe Space the quote unquote generic twin psychic connection, because it's just something that would kind of fit the characters. So they would know if one or the other is in trouble and try their best to be able to get there to help the other. Like Safe Space more easily being able to do it because he has the ability to teleport. But there could be situations where he's in trouble and he can't necessarily use his powers, and his sister could locate him to be able to help and rescue him. Again, this is what makes sense to me to do with these characters. I don't know what Marvel's writers and teams were thinking. Like, but I could have taken the same concepts. And again, this is how I would have run it if it was me making things with these characters, or me coming up with the concepts for these characters. Because these are the things that I see that are the most glaring with the individual characters that need to be changed. Like, so, if I were to be the one writing for the New Warriors 2020, B Negative would be the leader. Trailblazer would be the follow-up, like if he's incapacitated or he's not around. And then the other three have their abilities around what they're capable of doing. Again, not very difficult to come up with. And I just did this, I did this a few weeks ago, but I just redid it again with some changes to everything. But I don't see how it was so hard for Marvel to come up with these characters and make good use out of them. Because what I would have done, I know a lot more people would have been interested in. Yeah, I can't really do much on the side of the design of the characters. I can't do it. I really can't. It's just, I'm not an artist, so I just honestly can't do anything with the design of the characters. But the design of their stories or how they use their abilities, I could do that all day, every day. And it's because I'm not worried about pushing a specific agenda to make these characters be good characters. All you have to do to make a character good is write for the purpose of making the character interesting. This is why I argue against diversity for the sake of diversity. You create natural diversity when you just create something. It feels better. It's more intriguing to people. It's more desired by people. It makes people want to get more engrossed in the product. Simple as that. Forcing it does not help. And it's not like Marvel doesn't have a diverse group of characters, because they've had a very diverse lineup of characters since the early 70s, if I remember correctly. Again, but this is just my own personal perspective, what I would think would be better for the characters. You guys could go ahead and throw your ideas down in the comment section. I don't mind hearing them out, because it could be interesting. I just think that their failing is that they were trying to push this particular agenda forward rather than trying to make good characters and then making, because Marvel's done it before. They've made stories that had an agenda in the story, but the characters naturally fit into those stories, especially with situations like the X-Men, where they're completely discriminated against, which for some reason people think is an allegory for homosexuality, when it wasn't. It was an allegory for racism. It's literally that. But I'm not going to sit here and argue that point back and forth. It's just not what it is. That's not what it was written for at the time. But thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out. And again, let me know what you think in the comments below.